Talk about the latest happenings here in the state of Oregon. Now, I'm a caregiver here, a medical marijuana caregiver under the Oregon Medical Marijuana Act, and I've been involved in medical marijuana here in the state of Oregon since 2005. And most recently, in 2010, we had a measure on the ballot, Measure 74, which was a ballot measure to legalize dispensaries in the state of Oregon. Well, we don't have dispensaries here, at least legal ones. We don't have a way for patients to access their medicine. Now, our patients do get 24 plants, that's 6 mature and 18 seedlings, and they do get to possess up to 24 ounces of medicine. But the one thing people have always complained about is, where is the access? If you just got diagnosed with cancer today, you don't have time to wait for a crop for 9, 10, 12 weeks. You need access now. You need cannabis now. And unfortunately, Oregon's always been lacking on that point. Now, Oregon activists did place an initiative on the ballot previously, back in 2004, a Measure 33, that gained about 42% of the vote. In 2010, the dispensary initiative gained about 43% of the vote. They were very different initiatives, but to the general public, basically they were saying no to the retail commerce in medical marijuana. And there's all sorts of reasons that people will suppose this is the case. Maybe they're looking at California and they don't like the excesses they see there, whatever the excuse might be. The fact remains that Oregon does not provide a way for its patients to gain access. Well, this doesn't matter to the activists out there that are trying to help the medical marijuana patients in the state of Oregon. Now, originally, this had started out in Oregon. One of the ways that activists were involved in getting medicine to the patients were patient meetings. This would be a situation where medical marijuana patients gather. They can hear some speakers. They can learn about the law. They can do activism like writing postcards in groups and sending them into the legislators. And usually at these medical marijuana meetings, excess would be donated to the organization. Then the organization would split up the cannabis and give it out for free to the patients who had attended the meeting. And this is legal because Oregon's Medical Marijuana Act says that any registered cardholder can freely give medicine to any other cardholder for no consideration. It basically means that you can give marijuana to another patient. And this is supposed to alleviate some of the access problems, where if one patient has more than they need, they can give to another patient. And these patient meetings were set up to try to hook these people up, try to set it up so that we could get the excess distributed to the patients in need. But as time has gone on, the patient meeting hasn't been enough for some people, and it's evolved, it's mutated into a new form. Just these past couple of weekends, I've taken the time to go around some of these locations here in the Multnomah and Washington County areas here in Portland. And I did so because I was disturbed by a story that we covered about raids in southern Oregon. Most recently, there's been 5 different locations, 3 in Grants Pass, that were raided, locations like the ones that I'm going to be talking about here in Multnomah and Washington County. So I wanted to see what was going on. So I visited the first one of these places, and I'm not going to name the names of the places. I don't want to give them any more trouble than what's probably coming to them eventually. But one of these places was a membership base where you joined for a year and your money goes into a pool of money, basically an account, and then this account is used to reimburse growers for the cost of producing medicine. And then the people who are members can go to this location and receive their medicine, having it already been accounted for the cost of expenses. That's another thing about the Oregon law, is that you may reimburse a grower for the cost of supplies, utilities, and expenses incurred in producing the medicine. However, not labor. Right? So you can reimburse for the cost of pots and the electricity and the water and the soil and the nutrients and all the stuff that you use to create the cannabis, but you cannot be reimbursed for your labor. So this first place I went to, they do it in a kind of a pool scenario where people are contributing their membership money on an annual basis and then receiving medicine on, a walk-in or a monthly basis, based on how much excess has been able to be gathered by that organization. Still kind of a little iffy there as far as the legalities go, because again, we're allowed to reimburse a grower. So if I am joining a group and that group is not a grower, then my money is reimbursing a group, and then a group is reimbursing a grower, and then I'm getting medicine from the group. There's an extra middleman in there, and it leaves me a little bit of concern. Other places weren't nearly as circumspect as that. Others were just right out saying that they were farmers markets, that you could show up at this place and there will be growers there who will exchange medicine for you. That is, you make a donation of cash and they make a donation of medicine, but it's not buying. It's not a dispensary. It's not purchasing. You're making a donation as a patient to a grower completely out of the goodness of your heart, and the grower is making a donation of medicine to you as the patient completely out of the goodness of their heart, except for the fact that there's a chalkboard that has written on it 1 ounce, half ounce, quarter ounce, eighth of an ounce, and suggested donation prices alongside that. I'm sorry. Not prices, suggested donations alongside that. This is happening in, like I said, I visited 6 of these over the last 2 weekends, and each one were very, very careful whenever someone would say the word buy to say, no, we don't sell nothing here. We don't sell anything. We don't sell. No, there's no selling. It's just donations. It's all just donations. Well, this is happening, folks, and something that I mentioned when Measure 74 was on the ballot is that we can vote for dispensaries to be regulated, or we can vote for dispensaries to exist without regulation, because they're going to exist. Oregon now has somewhere on the order of 48,000 registered patients in this program with nowhere to get their medical marijuana. People are beginning to fill that need. 6 different organizations that I was able to visit here within the past 2 weekends, and very, very little of the pretense of not selling, right? Very obvious. One place I went to, they had an open counter where there were these little petri dishes, and there's about 19 of these petri dishes, each one with a little sample of bud in it, and you could open the gray paper, you could open the AK-47, or you could open the Jack Herer, and you could smell it and sniff it, and then up on the board there's the suggested donation prices, $190 an ounce, and then they broke it down half ounce, quarter ounce, eighth of an ounce, and so on. Not that I'm complaining. $190 an ounce. I know people all over this country that would kill to get $190 an ounce of quality medical marijuana, and certainly the quality in the state of Oregon is nothing to sneeze at. But what's happening here is these people are continuing to push the lines of medical marijuana. They're continuing to work through these loopholes of saying you can reimburse a grower for expenses, and yet somehow the marijuana all ends up being the same price from all the different growers, right? We got some growers with hydropower, some growers with natural gas, some growers with all these other different methods of growing. Some are growing hydro, some are growing in soil, some are growing indoors, some are growing outdoors, some have 600-watt lights, some have 1,000-watt lights, and yet, miraculously, everybody's utility cost turns out the same. Everybody's reimbursement cost turns out exactly the same. What a miracle that all these disparate variables involved would end up giving you the same result at the end. Isn't that amazing? Again, not complaining about this. I want patients to get access. I want people to be able to buy and sell cannabis, even to healthy people, with no limits. However, when we made these medical marijuana laws, we entered into an agreement with the people. We entered into an understanding that marijuana was still illegal, but these medical patients were going to be able to use it out of compassion. And this leads me to another thing that was really disturbing on going to one of these places. First of all, some of the places are named, and again, I'm not going to give you the names, but they're named in such a way that they're trying to be medical, like they might call themselves the Medical Cannabis Collective, right? Okay, so now you're trying to sound medical, right? Medical Cannabis Collective sounds great. But then there's other places that might be called something like, the Bong Hitters Club. That's not what one of them is called, but there's a name that's similar to that, that's on that same, level of recreational use, that same cultural affect to it, right? So when you got a name like that, you got a name that just blatantly screams out recreational use, it's getting harder and harder to tell the people it's raining when we're peeing on their leg. You know what I'm saying? And when I went to this place, this Bong Hitters Club, again, that's not the real name, but it'll do. When I went to this Bong Hitters Club, they made a point of saying, we've actually got 2 head trauma patients here today. We've got 2 head trauma patients. And we go and speak to them, and certainly there's one guy that had a severe aneurysm. Another guy, I forget, it was a tumor of some sort. Certainly patients. But the way that they were pointing them out, it kind of made me feel a little sleazy. It made it feel like, well, no, we're really medical. Look, we're really medical. Look at them. Don't look at these people over here smoking weed. Look at those medical patients. They're really medical. They got head traumas. The loopholes and all of this exceptions and wink and nudge and air quotes that we have to use. Maybe I'm getting jaded, folks, but I'm getting a little tired of it. I'm reminded of Chris Rock when he says with his routine on rap music, I love rap music, but I'm tired of defending it. I love medical marijuana, but it's getting increasingly more difficult for me to defend it with a straight face when I go into these places that are just little more than marijuana bars. And again, I don't have a problem with marijuana bar. I don't have a problem with patients getting access. But the way that we framed this, the place that we're in right now with the laws and the public sentiment right now, and we're looking at possible repeal of medical marijuana in Montana. We're looking at the latest medical marijuana laws in D.C., New Jersey, and Arizona being unduly restrictive and not allowing people to grow their own. There's a reason why these things are happening. And this is the backlash against medical marijuana that I warned everybody about. We've seen what Jason Christ did up in Montana, going about trying to make a buck, trying to push the limits of the law, trying to interpret every loophole in a way to benefit himself, to get more people cards. We've seen what that's done. It's led to the imminent repeal of medical marijuana in Montana. Do we really want to see a similar situation happen in Oregon? We've already got numbers of bills in the legislature right now. They're doing things like reducing the plant limits from 24 to 4, reducing the possession limits from 24 ounces to 1 ounce, having a board of physicians to have to verify chronic pain conditions, requiring that the doctor who sees you be a bona fide primary care physician and not just some clinic doctor. These restrictions are coming on medical marijuana, and it's because the people have felt like they've been bamboozled. They've been hoodwinked on this. Just like the legislator in Montana said, they feel like they've been conned in this situation. They thought they were voting for medical marijuana, not to have marijuana clubs all over the place. This is the box canyon of medical marijuana we have long warned about. That once we keep defining marijuana as medical and only medical, anybody using it in something that looks like recreational and calling it medical is going to make it look bad. And meanwhile, the pharmaceutical companies are working on replacing the medical marijuana with cannabis extracts, things that work just as good as the marijuana without the pesky high or the ability of you to grow it for yourself. This is the direction things are happening here. And every activist out there who keeps pushing the limits, who keeps, testing the lawmakers to see how much they can get away with, you're going to find these lawmakers aren't going to be very happy about it. They're going to slap you down, and they're going to make more restrictive laws for everybody, even the people who are following the medical marijuana laws to the letter. This is why I believe in 2012 it is crucially important for us to pass marijuana legalization, not just medical, cannabis legalization for all adults, 21 and older, 18 and older, whatever you want to set the age at. Some state's going to have to break through and legalize, because we're at a turning point now. We're at a turning point where the opponents of marijuana, the opponents of legalization for everyone, are able to say, see, we legalized it just for the sick people, and look at all the terrible things that happened. Why would we ever want to legalize it for everyone? We've got to legalize it for everyone in one state so that we at least have one example to look at, one example to point at and say, see, when you legalize for everybody, all the problems with medical marijuana go away. All the problems with medical marijuana come from law enforcement trying to separate us into criminals versus patients, when really we're all just cannabis consumers. It's the same cannabis, and we're the same human beings. The reason we may be using the cannabis, whether it be for medical purposes, for a severe physical or mental ailment, or whether it just be for general wellness, to keep our stress level low, it doesn't matter. And by continually trying to separate us into patients versus criminals, this is where the loopholes happen. This is where the exceptions happen. This is where people try to push the limits, trying to push that line of medical closer to criminal, or trying to erase criminal by pushing medical. We cannot do it. We have got to just make it legal for everyone before people can see how medical marijuana is affected by prohibition. Right now, people can't separate the effects of prohibition from the effects of marijuana, and they think all the bad stuff that's happening around medical marijuana is happening because it's marijuana, not because it's prohibited for healthy people. It's time in 2012 to legalize in at least one state. I'm looking at Washington, Oregon, California, Colorado, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Vermont. All of these states have something going, either in their legislature or in their initiative systems, to provide a legalization of marijuana for all people. So as we look at Oregon and these pseudo dispensaries popping up, as we look at Montana and the abuses in examinations through Skype and pre-filled out forms, remember, every abuse of medical marijuana takes us one step away from legalizing for everyone. Be on your best behavior and treat these medical marijuana laws with some respect.